FreightWaves now. It's Friday, which means that it's Truck Talk Day, and we've got our Detroit Bureau Chief Alan Adler here with us this morning. He's gotten a lot of airtime the last day because of that breaking news with Trevor Milton and Nikola.
I don't know what to make of this, Kaylee. I mean, I've been on with you. I've been on with Anthony. You know, I don't know. It's definitely time to wash the FreightWaves Now shirt.
Well, Alan, let's jump right into it, man. Tell us what happened with Trevor Milton yesterday. What were the indictments? How did it all go down?
Yeah, well, first of all, shout out to our editor-in-chief, Mike McAllister. Did a great job pulling this together. You can see behind me, I'm still moving and trying to work that out. I tried to contribute, as did Brian, straight to the story. Basically, what happened yesterday is that the feds went down, and basically told Trevor Milton, you've been a bad guy. And so 3 indictments for fraud based on statements he made and so forth that absolutely, put him in a very difficult position legally. $100 million bond, had to put up that ranch home out in Utah as bond collateral. We will see if this ends up being jail time or not. It could just end up being a massive fine. He's got a team of lawyers. He's got Sarge Varbinin, which is one of the crisis communication teams working with him. The battle's coming. Is it going to end up being a plea bargain? Nobody knows. The most interesting thing, guys, is that it looks like Nikola itself as a company has been able to avoid any kind of issues with the Justice Department. The reason we say that is because according to lawyers who watch these things, about 8 out of 9 times that there's an indictment like we saw yesterday, if a company's involved, they get hit at the same time. So there's no indication that trouble is coming for Nikola as a corporation. The problem here, of course, is that Trevor Milton was Nikola for several years, and until he left in September of last year, he was the face of the company and arguably was the company. So it looks like justice is going to take, their pound of flesh from Milton and not from Nikola. The SEC probably is going to end up fining Nikola because, some of the statements that were made and some of the things that they pay attention to were the kinds of things that, quite honestly, they're probably going to be held accountable for.
Alan, so I know we talked about yesterday how Nikola did a really good job of when the news first broke, when everything came out about Nikola last year, of really putting some distance between themselves and Trevor Milton. And they provided those statements and they said, okay, you know what, this happened. He's going to move away from the company. He's going to move away from his position as chairman. And that kind of helped them save face and really take their own stake in their own position in this situation. Do you think that as the trial goes on, if there is a trial, and as people start doing the he said, she said of things that go on in court, that this could lead to kind of a decision by the SEC to then take an investigation into Nikola itself? Could there be implications for the company later on down the road instead of just immediately?
Well, the SEC thing is going to drag out, Kaylee. Anyway, they weighed in on Milton yesterday, but as far as the company goes, I'm told that this will drag out for a while. But in some ways, and maybe this is Pollyannish and maybe it isn't, in some ways that cloud is beginning to lift off of Nikola. Everybody expected something was going to happen where Trevor Milton was concerned. Now it has. As you mentioned, Nikola's tried to move on. They're cutting deals both for their hydrogen fueling network, and they've moved into the plant out in Coolidge, Arizona, $600 million plant that they built. They plan to build trucks, battery electric trucks, in the fourth quarter. I expect that we'll get another look. We've been out there a couple of times. I think we'll get another look at that probably in the Coolidge plant before fall. And I think that they're doing everything they can to move forward. Probably the biggest issue for Nikola right now is less what's going on in the halls of justice or at the SEC than in the financial markets. They're going to need some money. They're going to need quite a bit of money, really, to keep production on schedule. And that's probably $1.5 billion. How open will the financial markets be to, a new secondary stock offering or an additional offering? They've already filed to do that. It could come as soon as this summer. So I'm not really sure if what we're seeing the last couple of days is going to affect that or not. But again, as you point out, they're trying to move forward.
Yeah, it seems like things are definitely rolling downhill for Milton. Has Nikola made, have they made a public statement? Have they felt the need to make a public statement about what happened yesterday?
They did, and they came out very quickly with it, Andrew, and they basically said Milton hasn't had anything to do with our company since September when he resigned or was pushed out, probably the latter. And so they did. They said, basically distance themselves as much as they could from Milton. And they've been doing that for a while. One of the things that the SEC itself pointed out yesterday is that, Nikola did its best to rein Milton in, but they didn't even know some of the places he was going and who he was talking to and how he was hyping the stock and how he was trying to, manipulations and accusation I'm not going to make, but what he was doing, they couldn't keep up with him because he just couldn't get enough of the media, including myself. I mean, I talked to him more than half a dozen times at length over the months. And, great interview, great copy. You can find it in the archives on FreightWaves.com. I can't obviously claim its veracity at this point, but I can just tell you that, he was very available to us.
Alan, let's switch gears a little bit, but continue along this change of leadership thread. Of course, we're talking all about what happens when CEOs maybe not necessarily go rogue is the term for it, but when, they don't necessarily align with the goals of the company and what happens as they get pushed out of their roles and then new things change. What else can you tell us about what's going on in that space?
Well, yesterday, and this would have been a much bigger story, I think, had we not had the Milton story yesterday. But we had Dwayne Hughes was basically relieved of his duties at WORKHORSE Group. Now, we've paid a lot of attention to WORKHORSE because of the U.S. Postal Service contract that they expected to get to build new mail trucks, electric mail trucks that went to Oshkosh. So that has been a big story, both for myself and, John Gallagher, who was your previous guest. We've both been covering aspects of that. But WORKHORSE, quite honestly, has been in bad shape. It was run by Steve Burns, who most recently was relieved of his duties at Lordstown Motors, another electric truck startup that he started after he left WORKHORSE, where he was the founder and chairman, and CEO. Now, WORKHORSE yesterday brought in a man named Rick Dauch. This is a name that, for those around the industry, especially the auto industry, are familiar. Dauch used to lead Delphi Technologies, which was at one time part of the biggest tier one auto supplier in the world. But Delphi Technologies is what was left after a company called Aptiv was spun off of it and took most of the future-looking, electrification and autonomous technology with it. But Dauch oversaw a $3.3 billion sale of Delphi Technologies to Borg Warner. I know I'm hitting a lot of names here at one time, and I apologize. But the point is, and I speculate about this today in Truck Talk, and that is Dauch really there just to push more trucks out the door, which clearly WORKHORSE needs to do to survive, or is he there for a greater purpose, which might be to find a partner and get them? They've got a great technology, this composite body van, electric skateboard chassis, really good product, but they just haven't had any real success in getting it built and out the door. Is he there just to do that, or is he there to find a partner and maybe get the business into the hands of someone who could run it properly? And we'll just have to see about that. But I think that he's way too big a deal to bring into WORKHORSE just to build a few more vans.
Okay, well, I was about to ask you, if you had to speculate a little more, what would your opinion on it be? But it's definitely, you think he might be there for a higher purpose. That's good to know, Alan. Alan, what else are you working on this week? What can we expect from you in the next coming days?
You know what? I don't know what next week. No, actually, I do. I think we're gonna have a visit, I believe, late next week out at Locomation in Pittsburgh, and take a look at what they're up to. But prior to that, I gotta catch my breath. I think it's been quite a week already. Today in Truck Talk, though, Andrew, we decided we would play a little bit of crystal ball work. I already kind of shared with you a little bit of what we're thinking about with WORKHORSE, but some interesting, I guess you'd call them leftovers from PACCAR this week from the earnings report, a little segment on that, on what, kind of their future looks like in terms of trucks as a service. We talk a little bit more about Lordstown. They got a financial lifeline of sorts this week. Is it going to be enough to matter? Hard to say. And then also, Hyliion made some news yesterday. We like Hyliion a lot. We talk about them, we write about them a lot, but they look like they may have a move now that could make them relevant in the electric vehicle space. I think the question about Hyliion all along has been, hey, nice idea, but it's kind of answering a question that no one asked, which is a hybrid, bringing a knife to a gunfight, if you will. If the gunfight is full electric vehicles, you're bringing a knife with a hybrid truck. But now they've come up with a way to extend the electric range on the truck to 75 miles, which basically puts them into a good place in California in terms of generating at least partial credit that can be sold to companies to offset pollution credits. So they were really not in that position before. So they plan to launch this hybrid truck called the Hypertruck ERX with this longer electric range, which is really a big move for them, maybe bigger than some of the other things they've announced, because it makes them relevant. And I really think that's been the question for Hyliion since it's starting. Is it relevant in today's environment?
Alan, it sounds like you have had quite the busy week, so we'll let you go this morning. Thank you for joining us on FreightWaves Now. Of course, go subscribe to Truck Talk up on FreightWaves.com, and you can catch all of Alan Adler and his busy writing up there as well.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
You have a great weekend, too. Let's toss it over to Andrew Cox and Anthony Smith. They've got our first